I'm Devorah Wallen, and I'd like to share my tea for two, my Torah thought, for 2 minutes more or less. This week is Parshas Vayeira, which means, "And God appeared to Avraham." This was right after his circumcision at a ripe old age. As is explained, God visited the sick. The Torah describes Avraham with the character trait of kindness, chesed. He was so generous of spirit that on the third day after his bris, knowing that he would want to get back to work, God made the sun hotter than usual so fewer travelers would be around, and so Avram could convalesce and not be inconvenienced by guests. However, when God saw that Avram was grieved since there were no wayfarers, Hashem sent angels in the form of men so Avram could attend to them. In last week's Tea for Two, I mentioned the loving kind nature of Avraham, which is hinted to in the spelling of his name. It begins with the first letter, Aleph, and then a Beis. This symbolizes Avram's nature to go outward from himself, the one, individual, toward the next person, Beis, the number two. The nature of kindness is to keep expanding and flowing outward. Water corresponds to kindness since it flows outward and downward. In our Parsha, when his three guests arrive, Avram humbly says, "I'll get some bread, echa pas lechem." Even though he modestly offers some bread, he brings them a huge feast. Consonant with Shammai's teaching and ethics of the fathers, Amor ma'at v'aseh harbeh, say little and do much, Avram expressed his kind and generous nature in action. It says in our portion, Vayita Eshel be'Beersheva, and Avram established an Eshel in Beersheva. Our sages in Midrash Tehillim understand the word Eshel to mean an acronym for Achila, Shtia, Volina, eating, drinking, and staying overnight. In other words, Avram set up a hotel for passers-by. From this Midrash, we learn the main three elements of hospitality: giving food and drink and a bed, if necessary. Additionally, if we examine the literal translation of the text, we find a beautiful nuance. Usually the verse is translated as, "I'll get some bread." However, ekha pas lechem literally means, "I will take some bread." Instead of using the verb for giving, Avraham uses the word for taking. The Abderov, the Ohev Yisrael, commenting on this verse says, "When one gives bread to the hungry, it is as satisfying as when one receives it." And as the sages say, more than the wealthy do for the poor do for the wealthy. Through doing the mitzvah, Avram feels he is the one who is blessed and is taking the bread. We see this illuminated in the Holy Tongue. The word nosein or natan, meaning to give, is a palindrome, nun taf nun. The first and last letters are the same. It doesn't matter which direction you read it, natan or natan, nosein or nosein. They both show the beauty and secret of giving. The giver is really a receiver, and the receiver is really a giver. Let us follow in the bountiful ways of Avraham and Sarah, who offered bread but gave a sumptuous meal. And may we be able to care for others and become as fulfilled by giving as when we receive.